Hello class and welcome to this Uninvited NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Briggins. I'm your instructor, Professor Briggins, and we are right smack dab in the middle of our entire month devoted to the spookiest titles on the NES. And when we were putting together our list on the games we wanted to tackle, this was near the top of that list. Certainly one of the spookiest games on the NES, in a class of its own, I suppose along with its sister games, if you will, and Déjà Vu and Shadowgate. Déjà Vu we actually did a class on about a month ago in anticipation of this class, just wanting to do these games in order by their release date. Speaking of Déjà Vu, I'm going to handicap Uninvited very similar to how I handicapped that game, in that if you know what you're doing in this game, it's a 1. It's just go step by step, follow this walkthrough, and you'll be fine. If you don't know what you're doing, easily one of the hardest games on the NES, so kind of averaging those numbers together, and I'm going to give Uninvited for the NES a 5 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to throwing your controller across the room, probably because you fell into one of the many deaths in this game, which, once again, like our class on Déjà Vu, Blaze is going to count down his top 5 deaths here in Uninvited, so even if you're following along with our walkthrough, you're still going to get to experience everything that you're not doing, all the deaths, which is honestly a lot of the fun of these games. No controller throwing necessary today though. If you just follow the walkthrough, we'll show you how to rescue your sister, which is the overall goal of this game. Add that to the list. We're running out of room, by the way. We're going to have to retire that soon, but so it really is the complete package when it comes to Uninvited. We got the walkthrough, the best route to take, and of course all the deaths, which are a lot of the fun of these games as well. Fluff also has a number of interesting facts about this game, and we might even get a Gary sighting. So let's run the intro and get into this Uninvited NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, as we begin a new game, let's take a look at the controls for Uninvited. Very simple, very streamlined, just like in Déjà Vu. Move the cursor with the D-pad. Cancel commands with B. A does pretty much everything else. And a new control is you can move the pointer between the windows. A little more streamlined with select if you so choose. As we take a look at the Briggs notes for this Uninvited NES walkthrough, the keys to beating this game. Pretty much just follow this guide. We have the most efficient route for beating this game. And remember to save early, save often. You have that feature in the bottom right hand of the screen. Just click that, save your game, and if you die, you can just pick up wherever you last saved. So the first thing to do is to open the door and move out of the car. We can either click where we want to move, or in some cases just click move and then click on that kind of mini map in the bottom left. I always appreciate the game's kind of sarcastic, quirky tone that I guess the narrator brings to the game. But first thing we're going to do after we get out of that burning car, open the mailbox. You can open this envelope in your inventory right here, and then this will bring you to sort of a mini inventory screen, which is just for whatever that you've just opened, in this case that envelope. So we're going to take that pendant out, very important, so we can actually head into the mansion. And look at that. Kind of seems irresponsible, if you ask me, to leave the magical key to your house in your mailbox like that, so any yokel walking by can grab it and gain access to your house. But when you realize how evil and dangerous this house is, you can figure, yeah, they're probably not too worried about security in that regard. But anyway, reading the letter, we get a little bit of context as to what's going on, but yeah, let's head inside this evil house. A lot of great music in Uninvited, as was the case in Déjà Vu. Fluff mentioned this in our class on Déjà Vu, but yeah, part of the port for the NES involved getting a sweet soundtrack, which was not available on the original version of the game, so NES players get that. So we're going to open this right door. Go into a kind of library right here, and we're going to open this book on the table. And unlike Ace Harding, we have access to magical spells in this game, giving us some guidelines there saying, hey, you can use these spells for good or evil. Kind of like the end of Link to the Past, you know, if you have a good wish in your heart, then good things will happen, evil wish, bad things will happen, all that. But to be fair, this game predated Link to the Past by a few years. So anyway, after you've read that book that you just opened, you'll have some spells that'll disappear, and we're going to backtrack into the foyer and open this door on the back wall here and press on through. And I teased this in the opening. Don't mess with her, just go straight upstairs. Just follow along as we continue the walkthrough, and we're going to bring in Blaze to cover the first of the best deaths here in Uninvited. Blaze, what do you got?
There are a lot more ways to die here in Uninvited than in the first MacVenture, Déjà Vu. Players need to be very careful about where they go, what they do, or even what they eat or drink in this game. Still, the gruesome and sometimes humorous deaths are part of the fun of this game, so I'm gonna go ahead and count down my top 5 deaths here in Uninvited. Starting off at number 5, if you don't frighten off the guard dogs with your thunder spell, you'll be overcome by the canine savagery. This one is worth it for the Indiana Jones reference of why'd it have to be dogs, and that animation alone.
Completely agree. Thank you very much, Blaze. Yeah, the artwork, the animation on a lot of these screens, very nice. Some more than others, but and we're continuing on here. And yeah, also mention the snakes, the Indiana Jones reference. Just little things like that help to offset some of the more disturbing parts of this game. Not disturbing, I guess, in, you know, relative to a lot of the games which are out today, but certainly by the mid-'80s or even the early '90s when this port came out for the NES, by those standards, yeah, this pretty creepy. So anyway, we got our no ghost from the shelf back in there. We're gonna open the cap first, make sure you click open on it, and then just use the no ghost on the ghost. Sometimes they do it for you. You don't need a walkthrough in that case. You see a ghost, you got a bottle of no ghost, use the bottle of no ghost on the ghost. But anyway, yeah, if you try doing anything else in this room before you use the no ghost on that ghost, aside from going upstairs, then yeah, that well, maybe Blaze will talk about that later. But anyway, we're gonna cut through this room here, and you're gonna see a large black spider running along the rail right here. Let's see if there's something in our inventory which we can use to maybe incapacitate that spider. Spider won't appear again until we come back to the screen again, so when you can't actually click on the next area in front of you, you need to click move first, and then click on it on that mini-map right there. Versus just a door which is open right in front of you, you can just click on that. But so you got that sticky stuff on the railing, and we are now the proud owners of a spider. Good to have that amongst our property. Pretty good inventory though, I have to say. Pendant, an axe, and a spider. We're going to backtrack into this busy hallway. We're going to open this back left door. Going in through here, grab yourself those flowers on the table right there. Nice bouquet. A lot of variety there in that inventory. Alright, go in this left door, we'll be in the kitchen. Grab the bloody knife on the left right there. And we're gonna go open the door on the left and open the door on the right. And as we go into a little pantry and a side room, we're going to go to Fluff for the first time today. Get our first Fluff fact about this Uninvited for the NES. Fluff?
1986's horror-themed Uninvited is the second game in ICOM's influential Macintosh computer-based MacVenture series, after the previous year's Déjà Vu, which we did a recent class on. while a 1984 game called Enchanted Scepters is officially credited as being the first game to introduce the mechanic of controlling the cursor via a mouse, essentially creating the point-and-click genre. It was ICOM's early MacVentures which quickly followed in Déjà Vu, Uninvited, and Shadowgate, which introduced the ability to use various common commands into the formula, a convention which would define the genre and influence the next generation of point-and-click games from well-known adventure game studios like Sierra and LucasArts Games. Uninvited was released for the Macintosh computer in 1986 before being ported to other platforms over the following years in the Atari ST, Amiga, MS-DOS, Commodore 64, and eventually the NES in 1991 by Japanese developer and publisher Kemco, 5 years after its initial release on the Mac.
Good call, Fluff. Yeah, I have a lot of experience with the games of Sierra in particular, but LucasArts games as well on my sister channel, Let's Play with Brigands. A lot of adventure games. Never played Enchanted Scepters. Have to give that one a shot. So we're going to backtrack to the foyer, that initial room now, for a sneaky solution here. We're going to use that knife we picked up in the kitchen on the couch, and we'll find a key in the cushion of the couch. Got our first key for this game. So now we're going to head back upstairs. And this time, we're going to go into... Actually, we're going to go in the front door. The one that we have not yet opened. It's another bedroom. And it's a little shortcut if you don't have anything queued up, any actions already. Just hit B to clear it, and then just click on a door and it opens it automatically for you. But here in this room, we're going to use that key that we just picked up in the couch back in the foyer, on this closet in the back of the room. We want the box and the 2 scrolls. We can't actually open the box through conventional means. We need to kind of think outside the box, pun intended, I suppose. Taking this back down to the foyer. We'll make a little stop off on the way back down to the foyer, but as we're doing all that, let's bring back in Blaze for the next of his top 5 deaths here in Uninvited.
At number 4, arguably the creepiest of the deaths in Uninvited is also arguably the easiest to avoid, as it requires you to first happen upon a stone coffin in the Labyrinth, open the lid, and climb inside. After you've done this, someone or something closes the heavy marble lid on top of you, sealing you inside as you asphyxiate to death. I definitely appreciate their subsequent joke of most people die first and then go into a coffin to kind of cut the tension a little bit.
Thank you, Blaze. See, we're using that key on that cabinet back there, and using the doll spell on the doll that we find. And we get a new magic word from that. But yeah, to Blaze's point, yeah, it's a nice balance of the sarcastic narrator paired with the creepiness of this game. It's a nice balance that ICOM has struck with this one. But I alluded to this solution earlier. We're back in the foyer. We're going to take that box that we picked up in the bedroom. Before we do it, we're going to light the fireplace right here with the matches, which we got in that cabinet, or the kind of closet earlier. Use that in the fireplace. And now that we have a roaring fire going there, grab that box and toss it in the fireplace. And we're going to grab the star which just appeared from the box which we burned up in the fireplace, as you do. And we're going to head back to the game room now. That first left right here in the hallway. You can see this little critter walking by. Even the game knows that he's pretty cute. Just scurrying through. You don't have to question the reliability of your eyes. He's a somewhat cute, abstract creature. Has a key on it. Not much we can do about that right now. Maybe if we had a treat for the creature, but a little bit later. Only thing we need from this room is the cage. We also feel sorry for the animals that were killed. I like that they're just needlessly trying to build our character out a little bit in this game. Just way more consideration than 99% of the games on the NES where you did not get that. But Anyway, grab that cage, head outside right here. We have 3 buildings to choose from. We're going to go the middle path first, which is going to take us to a greenhouse. We can turn on this faucet right here to get some water, but until we get the watering can, no need to really do that, because we can turn that off in an effort to conserve water, except a little bit later in the game you're going to see we really don't care about conserving water, so just leave that on. Head inside and grab yourself the watering can, and it already has a bit of water in it, so we can just go ahead after we pick it up and use it on that pot to the left. Have to water this pot a few times before it will produce the piece of fruit that we need. So we'll have a couple uses from that watering can before we have to head back outside and fill it up with that faucet. Just use the water can right here on that stream of water. And just doing it once will be enough. Head back inside. Use the water can 1 or 2 more times before you see that piece of fruit grow. There it is, 3 times total. Plant bears fruit, so take that. We're going to hold off on eating it ourselves, or we're going to hold off permanently. We have a special use for that piece of fruit. If you are going to eat it, I recommend saving it before you do so. But now we are going to head into a bit of a maze, ultimately. Here's those dogs that Blaze mentioned earlier in the first of his 5 deaths. Again, with the Indiana Jones reference right there. So here we're going to use the Thundidi spell. And like most dogs, the lightning and the flash and the thunder scares them. So they take off. We can head inside now. Into this little church here, where we're going to want to grab both the candles as well as that goblet, which is on that table over there in the back. And for some reason, when you pick up the goblet, there's this extra line about filling up the goblet. I guess we're filling it with holy water. That was just an automatic action that we took right there. But we're going to cast the spell before we head out to the left, and while we're doing this, let's get another Fluff fact with Fluff.
There's a little Easter egg and nod to another ICOM MacVenture here in Uninvited. If you play the phonograph in the game room, you'll hear a broken record version of the main theme of Shadowgate, a game which was ported to the NES 2 years prior to Uninvited. Incidentally, and despite being the second game ICOM released overall, Uninvited is actually the last game of the original MacVenture trilogy released for the NES. Released for the NES in 1991, the game came out a year after Déjà Vu and 2 years after ICOM's third overall release game in Shadowgate, or in other words, the ICOM NES ports were released in an unconventional order of 3-1-2.
Good call, Fluff. Yeah, I guess they figured that Shadowgate was the best entry title when it comes to sharing the MacVenture titles on the NES. Which I can understand, that was the one that they had made most recently, so probably the one they were most proud of. But note that we lit those candles in the last room before we came here, and then just automatically, if you have those candles lit, it just takes off the things offended to its supernatural home. I just love the way that they write their descriptions in this game, but alright, pay attention and follow along as we make the corresponding moves through this labyrinth here. And while we're doing this, let's bring back in Blaze for the third best death here in Uninvited. Blaze?
We're gonna stay in the labyrinth for the third best way to die in Uninvited. As you're fumbling around in this maze, you'll likely run into a zombie. If you don't use the pendant to zap him, he'll take a bite out of you, zombifying you in the process. Technically not death, I suppose, considering you become undead, but it's another great and unexpected close-up animation.
Yeah, probably run into that zombie before too long. As we continue navigating through here, let's go back to Fluff for one more Fluff fact about Uninvited.
As with the other two NES ports of MacVenture titles, a lot of changes were implemented to the NES version of Uninvited. This includes the addition of a solid soundtrack, the removal of a hidden art gallery in the house, and for some reason the swapping of the objective being rescuing your younger brother to an older sister. There were also a number of changes implemented to adhere to Nintendo's censorship policies of the time, like watering down a lot of the death descriptions to make them less graphic than in the original version. Additionally, the address of the house was changed from its original Master Crowley 666 Blackwell Road, Loch Ness, Scotland. By the way, Blackwell Road is an actual road located roughly 12 miles from Loch Ness. The 666 was dropped due to its association with the devil in Christianity to adhere to Nintendo's strict rules against featuring any religious imagery or themes. This is also why pentagrams were turned into stars, and an important item in the cross was changed into a chalice. Interestingly enough, the Master Crowley part of the address, which is likely a reference to the occultist Aleister Crowley, was kept in the game, making this Uninvited's hamster in the microwave, or something which surprisingly snuck into the game, likely due to the censor's unawareness.
Yeah, censor probably got frustrated very quickly through their controller. Said, I can't figure this out, and I'm sure it's fine, they probably said. Love that the same key works in every single lock in this game. They got a lot more complicated with the keys in the other MacVenture titles, but... So remember when we grabbed that key, once we let all these animals out, grab the hog. If you grab any of the other animals, well, maybe Blaze will talk about that later, but that just leaves the cat and the snake alone together, and maybe let's not show Fluff that part right there, but as we move on, just go south a couple screens and run into this weird tomato monster. Really don't know how else to describe this, and probably a record for how quickly we're going to use an item in our inventory after we just got it. In this case specifically, we're going to open up the cage, and the bird we just captured is going to fly across the screen and distract this giant-lipped tomato. I don't know what that's meant to be, but if you know, class, leave a comment. Well, there you go. That's the most genuine reaction, I think, in this whole game. Grab the jewel that's left behind by that monster, and then we go into our spells and use the telemaze to get transported out of here. That's all we needed from there. Now I understand. Good, as long as you understand. Alright, so let's backtrack through the chapel. And then, last place to go with this, okay. We did see that. We're gonna head into this left room this time, the Magisterium. Large domed building. And we're gonna challenge that record of releasing the bird just as soon as we got it by using the jewel which we just picked up in this slot above the door right here. It's kind of tricky to get that NES mouse cursor on it, but they're generous. Fits perfectly. Nice little flicker. It might have something to do with that. Alright, well, regardless, the door is open. We can head inside. And remember that fruit we've been carrying around? We're going to give it to this floating blue creature. Here it hiss something about food. I guess we can understand it. Speaking of this fruit, we're going to hand it over, but if we ate it ourselves, Blaze?
The number 2 death here in Uninvited is another one of the darkest. The game encourages a lot of experimentation and trying different things, but trying the fruit you just grew in the greenhouse causes you to age at a ridiculously accelerated rate, specifically 1 year per second, until your body blows away in the wind. Maybe save the fruit for Slimer's blue cousin.
Yeah, that's a bad way to go. I mean, it's a terrifying 60 seconds, and then I guess that's about it, but... Anyway, yeah, give it to Slimer's blue cousin, like Blaze mentioned. Here the combination is 794780. Inside we're going to find a tasty treat for that cute little creature that we saw dancing around the game room earlier. Bit of moon logic here, and that the solution to this doesn't exactly make sense, but how do you open that jar? We swing our axe that we picked up very early on in the game to open the cookie jar. You're right, there was a cookie in the jar. Well, there you go. Alright, so we're going to backtrack all the way to the game room now to get, I guess, the second key in this game from that little dancing monster. I mentioned you can leave what you don't need here. Doesn't affect us because we only have what we need essentially at this point, but yeah, there are certain instances in the game where... Alright, there he is. Let's drop the cookie on that plate right there. Smiling key-bearing creature. He waves his key wildly, teasing you. He's got his little plate set up on the floor here, so let's drop that cookie on the plate. He's gonna eat that cookie, and as a thank you, I suppose, or just completely distracted by a good cookie. As they can do. Yeah, I guess in his haste, so yeah, he was just distracted by the deliciousness. So we finally have key 2, which we're going to use back in the Magisterium. So head back outside, go through that left building again. And the door to use the key on is, and we're going to go straight through, back to that same room. The door we're going to use the key on is easy to miss. It's right there in the floor. They like their floor doors here at ICOM. Get one in Shadowgate a little bit later on as well, but use the key on that to unlock it. Yeah, drop down into a cave. 5 inches of tar on the ground. Alright, we're going to head through this left door right here. See this wall of ice as a figure appears and actually gives us some half-decent advice. It's not completely cryptic for once. Also gives us some context. So we can find Drakon into the ice in this area. But he wants us to kind of banish him into the darkness. So let's use the star on the ice here. Everything's anthropomorphized in this game, or I guess it brought in the flaming apparition with a little face. But there he is, trapped in the ice, but now he's floating down the river that it's created. The old man reappears and he urges us to quickly banish Drakon into the dark world, his disciple. He's come up to this next screen, and you would think there'd be some elaborate spell, something we would need to cast, something more elaborate that we would need to do. Now we just literally pick him up and drop him down this hole, like down a garbage chute, essentially. And that's all you have to do. You can jump down there too if you want, but that wouldn't end well. So yeah, just drop him down the garbage chute, head to the left, go up these stairs. We're almost home, class. Just the final boss standing in our way. We hear our sister crying out on the floor above us. We haven't been in this one of the early rooms. You see if you come back through here. We're back outside the dining room, so go down here in the game room, back to the hallway, going upstairs, making good time, trying to rescue our sister. Somewhere on this floor. Alright, so this is the old man's bedroom, but Drakon, I guess it's Drakon, D-R-A-C-A-N. So his room is the top one. The disciple stays here in this more meager, plainer bedroom. And we're going to open this top door. This is to the bathroom. And you'll find that the door locks behind you. And there's no toilet. Which I kind of want to dissect a little bit, but first things first. So we're going to turn on the water here. I kind of alluded to this earlier in terms of wasting water. We're going to try to open this, I guess, light. in the ceiling. And just keep repeating this every time you take an action. Too bad you didn't bring a rubber ducky. More water will fill the room until it gets to this height, in which case you can finally open that light and go through this hole in the ceiling to be in the attic. And there's your sister. Ignoring you. Come on, sis. Alright, finally get to use the hit command on our sister. Give her a slap and oh no! Alright. A horrible spirit comes out. Screeches at you. The thing begins to speak in a low rattle. This little one is too weak for me. It's gonna come after our body. You will join us now. Ooh. Alright. Not on my watch. Not while we've got Gary.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters. Alright, to take down the final boss in Uninvited, who's been tormenting your sister, simply reach into your inventory and use the goblet on the spirit. It's a cliche, but its holy water will destroy that evil spirit.
Good luck, Gary. Thank you very much. Better late than never. Always good to see our resident boss expert, but just like that, take down the boss, head through the window, and your sister's just chilling out. And it's a nice day. All of a sudden, sky's clearing up. Sister has no memory of what just happened. I guess a product of being possessed for the last half hour. What a nightmare I had. You hug your sister again, thanking heaven above that it's all over. Your sister is now herself again. You are aware of a sense of peace and triumph. Yep, reassure, it was just a nightmare. You know what else is a nightmare? The final death, the best death you can get in Uninvited. So to close this out, we haven't forgotten about him. Let's bring in Blaze one last time.
Before I mention the best death in Uninvited, here are some honorable mentions. This game doesn't make it easy on you. In fact, the very first death can occur in the opening seconds of the game if you waste too much time getting out of the car as you burn up in a fire. In going into one of the top rooms in the mansion, you'll find the jail cell. Making the mistake of going into the cell after a ghostly apparition warns you there's no escape results in you getting trapped with, well, no escape before you die of thirst or starvation. Speaking of apparitions, one of the grisliest deaths comes from doing anything aside from using the no ghost on the creepy ghost in the hallway who rips you apart. Just don't forget to remove the cap. Lastly, and another one of my favorites based on the animation alone, if you don't capture the hawk in the cage in the Labyrinth, the three animals quickly turn on you in what's likely my favorite animation in the entire game. But at number one, the best death in Uninvited is the one which makes me laugh the most. Picking up the goblet in the church reveals a small passage. The game warns you that you don't want to go down there, repeatedly in fact, because of the presence of a giant spider. If you continue to insist upon going on down in there after 3 consecutive warnings, the game sarcastically feigns surprise when you get down there saying, well, what do you know? It's a giant spider, which subsequently crushes your tiny body in its large, powerful jaws. It's the little things, class.
It really is, Blaze. Thank you very much. Excellent work. Excellent work to all my TAs today. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so to enroll in this class. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. We'd love to have you along. Click that like button as well if you don't mind. It really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Have you played this one? I feel like it gets the least amount of attention of the MacVenture series on the NES, but that's our time. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.